Why is it that the people who we look to for spiritual guidance, or in some cases religious guidance, why are they no longer abiding by the teaching of ahimsa? Any authentic spiritual teacher will say, listen everybody, if we want to actually call ourselves people who are on a spiritual path of awakening, we cannot be taking out our wallets and paying for meat, dairy products, and eggs, because this is paying for rape and killing of children and breaking the bond between the mother and the offspring, and environmental devastation and war and hunger, and forcing workers to stab animals all day. I mean, how is it possible that someone who sets themselves up to be a spiritual teacher could not bring this up, not question this, and further, and actually be doing this themselves? I think it's really not possible. And I'm not criticizing anyone who considers themselves to be a spiritual teacher, or people who are following spiritual teachers who are eating animal foods. There's no criticism. It's just simply saying that we've all been wounded by being raised in this society, so we're blind. We have blinders slapped onto us, and we see spirituality in a very narrow way. We all know that animals are capable of suffering, that they do have interests, that they are the subjects of their lives, that their suffering is to them as significant to them as my suffering is to me. And so if that's true, which it is, and we all know that, then our treatment towards them is ethically based. It has to be ethically and morally founded upon the same principles that we have for each other, not to kill and steal and abuse these other beings who have interests just like we do. So it's past time for us as a society and as individuals to hold the spiritual teachers in our world accountable for their actions, that they're not eating animal foods. If they're going to be our spiritual teachers, they're not eating animal foods. They're not, and furthermore, they're encouraging their students to question eating animal foods. I mean, this should be foundational. This is so obvious today. Maybe in the past it wasn't so obvious, but today with 7 billion people and the complete destruction of ecosystems due to animal agriculture and the violence to these animals and the hyper-confinement and mutilation of animals, the violence, abuse, and devastation, the disease and hunger and injustice, all radiating from animal agriculture, makes it clear that anyone who is a spiritual teacher or a political activist or an activist for social justice in any way needs to be aware and to live a life we would call a vegan life. I think it's too bad that we have to use a word like vegan to describe just what is basically just coming home to our own true nature and just seeing beings when we see beings and not seeing commodities. This is our natural wisdom. And I think this is what veganism is, and this is the foundation of spiritual teachings. And so if we want to have a future for our children, and we can see that there is a doorway opening for a positive future, that those of us who are teachers, and I think in a deep sense all vegans are teachers, because if we're living this, we're exemplifying a life where this pathway to a world of peace and harmony is actually being lived by us, that we can treat not only all the non-human animals of the world with kindness and respect, but also treat each other as human animals with kindness and respect in all of our relations. This is an ongoing challenge, a never-ending challenge, and we can all improve our ability at doing this. So again, I want to thank all of you for the efforts you're making, and know that the vegan path, the path of ahimsa, of nonviolence, the spiritual path of awakening from the delusion of separateness and from the underlying delusions in our society, from decolonizing our own consciousness, from understanding our connection with an inner wisdom that can guide us in our life, and that as we do this and live this, we're creating a movement of peace and freedom that will benefit not only us but all living beings. Thank you very much.